All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Premier Esports Academy web series. My name is Dan Himmelstein, founder and brain coach of Premier Esports Academy. And today is going to be the first installment of a 7-part series where we're going to be talking about a concept that often gets thrown around in the esports space. And it definitely gets thrown around a lot in the sports space. So that concept is going to be flow. Now, flow, I hate to say it, but the more you train to enter a flow state, the less likely you are to be there. And we'll talk about some reasons why that might be. But today, I want to give you guys an overview of the 7 principles of flow and what that means for you guys. So this is going to be a 7-part series. Today we're going to be talking about the very first aspect of flow. In my opinion, it's one of the most important and one of the easiest to control out of the 7. And that's going to be balancing challenge and skill. So what do I mean by balancing challenge and skill? You might say, Dan, a challenge is a challenge. This game is going to be, we're playing whoever we're playing, and that's the end of it. However, there are ways to balance this idea of challenge versus skill to help allow us to enter a state of flow where we're feeling like we're in control. We're feeling like we have all the skills necessary in order to complete our tasks at hand. So when I'm talking about the balance of challenge and skill, I'm going to bring up a little chart here and we can go through this. So as you'll see here, we have flow in the top right hand of this chart. And what that means is if you'll go around, on the bottom axis, you'll see skills. And then on the left axis, you'll see challenges. So that's going to be our challenge skill balance. And we have to figure out how to get into this space of where flow is. Control is great. Being aroused is great. That's really activation levels. But, we can see there's some less desirable ones on there, like anxiety, worry, apathy, boredom, and relaxation. We're going to want to stay away from those in terms of actual performance. So, as you'll see, let's take an example of, like, boredom, okay? That's going to be where we have a very high skill set, and our challenge is below par. So we're going to start to feel bored, and we're not going to really feel totally engaged, which is necessary to enter that flow state. So how do we actually balance this? I know I'm telling you guys to balance the challenge and skill, but we need some way to do this. So in a sense, this will be an action plan. So one of the best ways to do this is to manipulate the challenge. So say we're playing let's call it Overwatch. We're playing the best team in the world. We got smoked 20 times in the past, and we still have to. Let's call it the finals. Okay, we're in the finals of Apex. Who knows? So we're in the finals of Apex. This team's beaten us 20 times over again. Maybe it's time to manipulate that challenge skill balance because we're not feeling like our skills are absolutely dominant over this team. But, there's some things that we can do to manipulate. We still have to figure out a way to perform well, right? So if we manipulate that challenge, so let's say we're going to take away the goal of winning this game just for the time being. Let's take away the goal of winning the game and talk about taking the first map off of them. So, great. That way, that'll set us up for success. That'll set us up to not only take that first game, but to put us in this match, right? To put us in this series. So that's going to be a really important way to balance that challenge. Now, the other side of it is we want to stay away from that boredom piece. Like we said, let's just say we've smoked this team 100 times. The last 100 times in a row, we've beat this team. So we don't want to feel bored while we're in this game. That way we might lose engagement. We might get complacent. And we might not play our very best. So let's say, okay, great. We want to get a specific time. Let's say we want to push this payload very quickly, quicker than the last time we played this team on this map, for example. And this can be applied to all sorts of games. It doesn't have to be Overwatch. But we want to manipulate that challenge to make it a little closer to match where we believe our skills are, and that's going to help us enter that control and that flow phase, which is what we really want. Because when we feel that we're in a state of flow, I guess I should really talk a little bit about what flow feels like. It's something that you've probably experienced before, and just didn't really know what was going on. So a lot of the things, and we'll talk about these in the later videos as well, but being in a state of flow is also known as just optimal enjoyment. You're really just in the zone, everything's going right, you feel in control of your actions, and the game is just going the way that you want it to. Sometimes it feels like time flew by. Sometimes it feels like you're just in slow motion and you can just make all the right moves, everything that you absolutely wanted to. And that experience is a little different for everyone, but in essence, the state of flow is just an optimal enjoyment where you're fully in control and really making all the moves that you'd like to make, where it just feels effortless. So that's what that state of flow is, and if you've ever experienced it, you'll know it's a really great feeling, and if it can be replicated, that would be fantastic. But again, there is the caveat that the more we try and train for this, the more that we go about deliberately trying to enter this state of flow, the least likely it's going to be, because entering that state of flow takes full engagement in the task at hand. And if we're thinking about trying to get into flow, then we're not fully engaged in the task at hand. So that's going to be very important to remember as we're moving through these 7 critical parts of flow. So again, this is 1 out of the 7 parts of flow that we're going to be talking about throughout this series. And this can be done not just in esports, it can be done in everyday life, it could be done in tests, it could be done at your job. So really keep this idea of the challenge skill gap in mind and make sure you're monitoring where that is. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully this chart helps a little bit in terms of understanding where you need to be in terms of your challenges versus your skills, and how to manipulate those in a way that will allow you to set the right goals that are going to match your skill level and where you believe you are. So that's it for today. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. The handle is on the bottom right of your screen. It is at @dhims_esports or @dims_esports, either or. I won't be offended. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video of this series is coming out. I'll make sure to label it in the title and say this is part 1 of a 7-part series. But if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, they'll give you notifications on when a new video comes out. So thank you so much for joining today, guys. Take care.